Well, good evening, everyone. It was not my intention to double load Brother Andrew here tonight, giving him two subjects to talk about. But I figured visuals is a big part of presenting a lot of times, and especially nowadays, AI is a big part of that. And so, Brother Andrew's got experience with a lot of these, both of these things extensively. So he was a perfect fit for it, and I'm grateful that he agreed to do this for us. So, without further ado, Brother Andrew Johnson, and I'll go on mute.
Well, thank you, Brother Tanner. Um, Welcome to class 7, How to Use Visuals in AI. I am Brother Andrew Johnson of the Village Ecclesia in the Chicagoland area and here in Illinois. Um, I'm very happy to be speaking to all of you this evening. I'm delighted that Brother Tanner put all of this together. I think there's been a real need for classes, not necessarily like mine, but like many of the others that have come before me. And I really want to thank the other brethren who have contributed to this series. I'm honored to be among those speaking. So tonight we're going to talk about um, visuals. And um, I want to start by kind of just talking about that. Visuals play a pretty important role in our understanding of things. And the reason for that is that words are an abstraction, and they take a little bit more cognition in order for us to understand concepts when we're just using words. But when we use visuals, there's a nice bridge between the things that are said and the things that we mean, that, the reality of things. So visuals play an important role because they're typically easier to remember, they're easier to understand. And, 90% of the information that we process every day is visual in nature. Visuals can play an important role for good or ill, depending on how it is that we use them when we present to others. Now, one of the frequent objections that I have to that I at least anecdotally hear about visuals is that somebody has to be an artist or a designer to use visuals, and this is just not really that true. Um, it's it doesn't really matter who you are. Anybody can make a professional looking presentation. Anybody can. Um, Now, the practices and workflows that we're going to discuss tonight are solutions. They're solutions to common presentation issues that many others have found over the years. These are not my solutions, they're just solutions that I've practiced personally and I find them useful. You may not. I hope that you will, but you may not find them helpful or interesting. So I'll leave it up to you what you want to do. And importantly, I want to just mention, I mean, because this is a very wide topic, while we will touch on some technical aspects of visuals, the approach tonight is only at a high level on visuals. So just to be really clear, this is not a workshop. If you're looking for a class that's going to teach you how to use PowerPoint in Force, this is probably not the class that you want. I'm not at all, by the way, opposed to a workshop. So if you're interested in learning how to use particular software or do things on a much more detailed technical level, Brother Tanner and I have already talked about this. And if this is something that you're interested in, please just let us know. Send us an email, and we'll go ahead and make that happen, either on a personal level or on a group level, depending on level of interest. Tonight, um, I want to sort of cover workflow. Um, I want to look at first how you take a study and turn it into a presentation. I want to talk a little bit about basics of a presentation, things that we should think about before we present visually. I want to talk a little bit about building visual resources, and then, of course, using AI, and then we'll go ahead and conclude. So first, from study to presentation. Anecdotally, I can tell you I have met brethren that that when they're presenting, they're maybe a little proud, a little bit embarrassed, maybe a little bit of both about the presentation that they have. It's maybe very bare bones. And what I would just say is, that's fine. What we're doing when we're presenting is we're presenting ideas. And those ideas should be really center stage. It really shouldn't be necessarily visuals or anything like that. As long as the presentation conveys a concept that is desirable to the audience and that's clearly communicated, it doesn't really matter how many visuals you use. But what I would also say, just as an aside to all of that, is that we really shouldn't shy away from employing our skill in service to God or our community. Any skills that you have, any skills at all, are the highest use of our time and our skill set when they are applied in service to the Lord, or when they're applied in service to our community, to our fellow brothers and sisters, or even to people that are outside of the body, maybe even especially to people outside of the body. Making a presentation look professional is a highly desirable thing. We are representing not only ourselves, we're representing our community, we're representing our God. Why not do the best possible job that we can do? We see how important skill is when we look at scripture. We don't all necessarily need to be Bezalels and Aholiabs from Exodus 31. But we should use, if we're going to use our skill at all, we're okay at all at presentations, maybe take a few extra minutes to do an extra good job when it comes to disseminating ideas when we speak. Now, many of the other brethren who have come before me have talked about scripture when it comes to, what does scripture have to say about the topic that we're looking at this evening. Now, for visuals, PowerPoint presentations specifically, or AI, the Bible doesn't really say a whole lot, but that's not to say that the Bible doesn't say anything about visuals. Now, when we look at, for example, the law of Moses is almost the whole law is object lessons. It's extremely visual. It's participation in a visual. And all of those visuals are meant to elucidate our relationship to God, our relationship to our neighbors, our relationship to sin, our relationship to death, our relationship to grace and mercy, right? And that's what the law is there to do. There's a reason that it's a schoolmaster to bring us to Christ, and it's a highly visual schoolmaster. Now, think also about Bible prophecy, especially books like Ezekiel, Daniel, Revelation. If I say the great red dragon, you have an immediate visual that comes to mind, right? Prophets, God through prophecy communicates things very visually so that we have a really good understanding of what it is that he's talking about. He allows us to ponder what he's talking about through a visual medium. Yes, through words, but through a visual medium in those words. And prophets routinely used visuals to help people understand what God was going to do. See, prophets like, for example, Jeremiah, right, with the yoke on his neck. And the yoke is then later broken off by a false prophet who wants to use the same yoke to convey a false prophecy. And then, of course, later, Jeremiah puts on an iron yoke. Right. So we're meant to see that prophets use visuals to go along with their messages. Why? So that we can get a better sense of what it is that God is talking about. And of course, Bible poetry, proverbs, parables of the Lord Jesus Christ all evoke the senses, but especially they evoke visuals. So while we will not necessarily be talking about what the Bible says about visuals specifically, we can, I think, all agree that visuals are a really important medium for learning. The Bible knows that, and we should know that too. Now, the Bible may be words, but how we visualize things can make a very important difference to understanding. Visual information is still information, and like any information that we disseminate in a talk, we should do everything that we can to provide the highest quality of information, visual and otherwise, in our classes, studies, and presentations, right? So if you're the type of person like I am that has a physical Bible and likes taking notes in a physical Bible, I really want to encourage you to continue to do that. At a bare minimum, taking notes in a physical Bible is a wonderful thing to pass on to somebody else. A friend, a son or a daughter, wife, dating interest. Passing on a Bible that's full of questions and answers is a really wonderful thing, and I really want to encourage you to keep doing that. However, I would also just suggest that it's really important to create a common digital space also for notes and study. This is a space for when ideas come to you or questions come to you when you're on the train and the way to the city, or perhaps you just got through shopping at the grocery store and you think, oh, I just read something in my readings this morning. What is this all about? Or you wake up with a question, or you happen to just be doing your Bible study or your readings and you're really not clear on what something is. Now, other brethren that have spoken in this series have talked about eSword is a great place to write down some of those ideas and do your study. And I want to encourage you to also use that tool if that's of use to you. I personally don't use that tool. I'm the type of person that likes having 30 tabs open on my browser. But if that's not for you, that's okay too. What is maybe worthwhile though, taking in terms of workflow, really has to just do with where you're putting this information ultimately. Now, the way that I typically take notes or ask questions, I typically just do it on a slide program. I don't really use a word processor at all. I might use a word processor to hammer out let's say an outline or something like that. But most of the Bible notes that I take, whether it's in Bible class on a Wednesday night or for Sunday school and Sunday morning, I typically take those notes all on slides. And the reason that I do that is twofold. First, slides are numbered. And that really makes recalling where specific notes are much easier. If you remember the name of the file and you know generally what slide you're talking about basically chapter and verse of whatever it is that you've written, which can be very, very useful. And the second reason this is a great way to add to your workflow is that slides can be edited quickly for presentations because the information is already there, just waiting for you. All you need to do is make it look a little bit prettier. All right. Now, before you actually do assemble a presentation and before you really think about, oh, I got to add this visual or that visual, it is kind of important to sort of reflect on what it is that you actually currently have, right? When you're looking at your slides overall, what is clear? What is missing? What needs a better explanation? And what visuals might further clarify concepts for your audience? Because it's really important that we anticipate what our audiences need. The talk isn't for us specifically. It may benefit us, by the way, while we're putting it together, but the talk isn't for us, it's for other people. What needs to be clarified for our audience? The more complex the concept, the greater the need for some sort of visual to help us explain. Now, the reason I bring this up is because visuals, as I'll talk about later, they take time. So what we need to do early on is determine a hierarchy of how much time is going to be required to put our presentation together. Because we can't have all the visuals in the whole wide world, unfortunately. So we need to sort of figure out which visuals are the most important and what's going to give you the most bang for your buck. All right. So another part of this that's, I think, worth considering is who is your audience, because your audience also has different needs, right? If you're talking to an audience of children, it's different than an audience of adults. And if you're talking to people that are within the body of Christadelphia, or those that are without the body of Christadelphia, those needs are also different. So what sort of a visual is going to give you the most clear answer for, whatever it is, whatever concept it is that you're trying to communicate? It's also important to know where you're going to be delivering your remarks. Know your venue. That could be online, like it is right now, but it could also be in an actual building, a brick and mortar building, right? So, understand what sort of freedoms you have and what restrictions you have. You need to understand a little bit of both. And it's also worth considering, as others have mentioned, whether or not you can present without visuals if you have to, or if you want, without a laptop or without an iPad if you had to. Could you just present with only paper notes? I only bring this up because I also, others have brought this up, I also have had elaborate plans for a presentation, and they just didn't work out because the connection piece for whatever device I had, it wasn't going to work. So have backup plans ready before you even think about presenting something that's heavily visual. Now, with regard to visuals themselves, what medium are you using? I'll throw out a few options here for you. Whiteboard, PowerPoint slides, or digital or print handouts. All right, let's talk about these in order. Well, let's talk about the whiteboard first. I love whiteboards. I love them. I love, love, love whiteboards. They are great because they offer flexibility and spontaneity. I love them because as you present, as you become more passionate about things, it reflects in what you're putting on the board. I love that dynamic. I teach a fair bit, so that's something that's very appealing to me. That's maybe not appealing to everybody, but I love that. But there are some considerations that you have to have. There's some challenges to whiteboards. One is, can people see it? If you're presenting to a group of 12, it's probably not a problem. If you're presenting to a group of 300, 200, or 300, right? And you have people way at the back, are they going to be able to see what it is that you're writing? Probably not. Probably not a great way to teach those folks. Also, at a more basic level, do your markers and erasers work? I can't tell you how many classrooms I've been and have been ready to present, and I go to use my markers and they don't work at all. Or they work great and the board works great, and there's a really serious problem with the board. You just can't erase anything. So make sure you check all that stuff out ahead of time. If dry erase is really important to you, make sure you bring your own markers, have all that stuff ready to go. Also, everybody, please pre-draw your work. Don't just, unless you only have a few points on your board, if you're really going to bring up multiple points and show how they all connect together, which is a great way to use a whiteboard, pre-draw your work. Know what it is, the whole layout that you're going to create. This will take maybe an hour or two before class, but it's a really good thing to do. Have a plan before you get to the board. Don't just spontaneously hope that you're going to suddenly figure it out while you're in the middle of presenting. There's just too many things going on. Have a plan. Okay, let's put that to one side. Presentation basics. PowerPoint slides. Now, PowerPoint is great too. PowerPoint slides offer a more robust, memorable, flexible presentation. And it's easy to offer as a handout, right? If you wanted to just turn it into a PDF and just give it to people, it's really easy to do. If you wanted to just print it out, it's really easy to do. And PowerPoint presentations offer options for pictures, visuals, video, infographics. So thinking ahead of time about what exactly it is that you want to present to your audience, again, is really good. Always plan your work and then work your plan. Sorry, that sounds very business-like, and that it is a business motto, but there's some truth to it. Okay. Now, there are best practices to PowerPoint slides. One that I would say right off the bat is please don't present with a white background, a flat white background. This is boring. It makes your work look unfinished. Same thing with a flat black background and white text. It's just boring. It makes your work look really unfinished. Try to do something a little bit extra to make your work look like it is complete. Also make sure that your work is suitable for whatever medium you want, right? If you are trying to create a digital handout and you want something to be, or a print handout, and you want something to be ready for print, it's probably better to have a lighter background and darker text. It's a lot easier on the toner for the printer than doing a black background with white text. Yes, you can print that. It'll look just fine. But you're going to be spending extra money on toner, and there's some logistics to that. Text. This is a big one. Now, text, you should be very, very conservative with, in my opinion. Don't have every font in the whole wide world. Pick one or two. That's what you should use. One or two, three tops in terms of fonts. Sizes, I mean, that's a little bit more malleable. I would maybe recommend three sizes, right? A heading size, or a title size, a heading size, and maybe a body size. If you can get away with that, that's great. It just makes things a lot simpler for the audience to digest. Color should be pretty straightforward. Probably one, two, or three colors. Don't use the entire rainbow. This is just, it's too much. There's also some questions about what sort of font you want to use. Now, if you are printing something out, like you have a book, I would definitely recommend a serif font. Now, serif is basically sort of these little flags that appear on letters. And one of the nice things that that does for you in print is it creates sort of this horizontal way of flow for reading. That's what serif does. There is an actual reason why these little flags exist. However, if you are presenting to a room of people on PowerPoint, what you're going to want to use is sans serif font, something without those little flags. Now, when you go traveling, you might see a highway sign, and the highway sign is going to have letters on it. All of those letters, you'll notice the next time you're out, don't have those little flags on them. They're sans serif. And the reason why is because the serif muddies things at a distance. So I would highly recommend that if you're doing a PowerPoint presentation like this one, make sure you're using sans serif fonts. They're just much easier for people to read, especially at a distance. There's some other considerations you might think about too. Adding in a section in your presentation that'll tell you what the general flow is for all of your different topics. You might even want to add in a little contact section. So if somebody has questions for you or wants to reach you after the fact, after you've presented, that they have that information available on the screen. You may or may not want to do that, but I like to do that. I really love when people contact me after the presentation is over and ask questions. It's great. Okay. The real key to making good slides is very, very simple. It's simplicity. That's what makes a great slide. Have more slides, have fewer words on them. Simplicity is the key because people don't like looking at too much stuff. They want simplicity. If you're looking for a non-religious book that will teach you about the design and making of how to make things simpler, I really do recommend this book. It's called The Laws of Simplicity. You can read it in a day. It's by author John Maeda. It's a high recommend. It's a wonderful way to show you how to take those complicated concepts and just summarize them visually on screen. Now, what you don't want to do is something like this. This is my no slide. Please, please, Christadelphians, stop this. Stop this. Don't ever do this. I know that you want to show a picture. I know that you want to show us all of the information. Do not have an active picture in the background. I don't care how nice it is. Don't do that. Fade it out or blur it or something. But don't have this active picture in the background. There's other problems that are going on with this slide. There's way too much text. Nobody's going to read all of this. I'm sorry, nobody is. There's other problems here, right? There's too much of a similarity in the background color and the foreground color. Now, this is bad enough as it is with red, but this would be just as bad with black, right? It would actually be just as bad with white because there's too many white colors in the background for that white to blend in with. There's too many black colors in the background for this to blend in with. That's the problem. You need to pick the thing that's the most important. Either it's the image or it's the text. And if it's the text, keep it simple. And if it's the image, keep it simple. That's it. Don't show everything at once. Please, please don't do that. We'll take a moment to just talk a little bit about digital handouts. Not everybody does digital handouts or print handouts, but I do want to address them just very briefly. These are really good for detailed information or timelines. It's a little bit of an added extra. It's if you're doing a digital handout, it's dynamically resizable for personal devices. This is really good if you're trying to show a lot of detailed information to your audience that you're just not going to be able to get to during your presentation. And the thing to consider, though, with digital handouts is, A, do you really actually have time to make this? You know, if you're speaking in a week, no, you probably don't. Where are you going to host it? If it's a digital handout, where are you going to host it? How are people going to access it? How are you going to distribute it to other people? That could be a big question. You know, do you have a website? Does your ecclesia have a website? Like these are great places to host things. But it is also worthwhile noting that this can, in and of itself, be its own little distraction. Right? If you're trying to speak on a particular topic and people are trying to hit a QR code that's up on the screen and it's just not coming up, people can lose 5-10 minutes of your presentation because they just can't access something. Or if it's too involved, people's focus is just going to be drawn away, unfortunately, from whatever it is that you're talking about. Also, if you're creating a handout, I also want to urge you to think about how others could potentially use this. So, for example, this is a handout that I came up with that actually shows, I want to say this one's for Solomon's Temple, I believe. The question is, can other people edit it? If somebody wanted to pull this or a section of this for their Bible class, could they do it? Or have you cut editing off for other people? I really want to encourage you, if you're making up your own charts and graphs and stuff, please do share those with other people. It's really beneficial for other Bible students to be able to do that. However, please share it in a way where people can edit it and benefit from it that way as well. Okay. Let's turn to talking about visual resources themselves instead of just presentations. The big thing to consider with visual resources is time. Time is the big factor. What do you have time for? What must you show your audience? What's the most complicated idea that you need to be able to show your audience? And then what's kind of passable without it? That hierarchy is really important. And it will prevent you from, if you're putting a presentation together, procrastinating too much with things, you really want to make sure that everything is done ahead of time and you're not working on things. You can always type things while you're at Bible school for a class. I've done that before. But when visuals come into play, you can't just spontaneously create those. So be careful, make sure that you get those ready to go first. Um, there's different types of visual resources. I'm mostly going to look a little bit at photography and artwork. There's infographics on here. We're just going to kind of breeze through those a little bit. Okay, so first of all, with regard to photography, photography is the easiest get of all. Everybody has a phone, everybody takes pictures and video. And one of the nice things about using your own personal photography is that it's unique and personal. It isn't always professional looking, but it doesn't always need to be for these presentations. Now, if I were doing a presentation, let's say on Israel, alas, I have not been. I have not been at this time. I would love to go. I would love for somebody to organize that trip. But while I await that, I would, if I was going to create a presentation on Israel, I would ask around. I know a lot of other people have been on those trips. Brothers and sisters, friends of the truth, if you have been on one of those trips, you should really create an online resource so that other people can access that photography, as long as it's not something that you are hesitant to share. That would be a real benefit to your fellow brothers and sisters. Now, if you can't find somebody that has this photography, it's perfectly fine to go online. There's sites like Unsplash, Pexels, Vidsplay, and Pixabay that have both photography and video that are royalty free. You can use them in your presentations very easily. They're very professional looking. They're well composed. The only issue with them is that they are maybe a little bit generic, but it is still sometimes worth searching a content library online and building your own little library on your computer. Just put it away in a little file so that you can access it when you're looking for something neat for your presentations. All right, let's talk a little bit about artwork. Now, artwork is my bread and butter, and I have a special place in my heart for it, obviously, but there's a good reason for that, right? Drawing, painting, and 3D models, these are a powerful way, maybe one of the most powerful ways to describe complex concepts. The problem is that they may take lots of time to produce. And depending on whose art you're looking at, they don't always look accurate to requested specifics. So if you're doing a talk on like the Temple of Ezekiel's prophecy, your options are going to be limited if you're looking for something on the Sully model. There's lots of other models that are out there, but if you're looking for that one in particular, your options are limited. And if you have a brand new concept that you would like to sort of elucidate through your presentation, I can assure you those concepts are unrepresented or underrepresented, or they're totally maybe even absent from the body of work that is out there and available to you. Do look around, do look for creative ways to maybe find some of that information. But just be aware, if you're trying to elucidate a new idea, you probably want to enlist an artist to help you out with elucidating that idea. One of the reasons that I put together Biblical Tool Belt, that's my site, is because that is generally a problem overall when it comes to presentation work. There's a lot of material that's out there for people that are looking for Bible illustrations. But when it comes to things like prophecy or, diagrams or something like that, that isn't always readily available, and it's not always readily available at a nice resolution. So that's why I created biblicaltoolbelt.com. I originally created it for my own work that I was putting together for my own presentations. And it's become an incredibly popular site. Overall, I'm very, very thankful for that. But these are free resources for kids to adults. If you haven't been on the site, please do check it out. I strongly encourage it. Now, I'm not the only artist out there. There's plenty of other artists that may be available. You might want to check out other Christadelphians on Instagram or Facebook and maybe reach out to them if they're available. There's plenty of talented people out there that really do want to help. But it is important that you understand if you are reaching out to an artist, artists can't make something specific really, really quickly. Time and skill are huge factors on projects. Artists have lives too. We have other things that are going on. Um, and sometimes we can get you maybe the best that we can do for a short period of time. You may have to blanket some of some of what's been created for you if you have an artist working for you with, a little bit of extra text to sort of explain away the discrepancies maybe that an artist has. Um, it's not always, unfortunately, a one and done when you're talking to an artist. There are, of course, some pay sites that are out there, but I will argue that the quality of the art isn't always good or even accurate, especially when it comes to things like prophecy. Let's talk a little bit about how you can use different assets. If I have the rider on the white horse here, this is an asset that has no background, right? We just have the slide background, and we've added a simple animation using PowerPoint here. This can give a little bit of extra visual flair. If, for example, you were doing a talk on Revelation. If you were to do something like this, the four beasts of Daniel 7, you were doing kind of like a diagram or something like that. What you'll notice is that some of the text is just a little bit small. It's totally fine to use this in a slide, but I would probably also want to hand this out as a digital handout or a print handout so that people could actually take a little bit of a closer look at this. So just be aware of how all of your work is going to show up. Other forms of visuals can be beneficial, like if there's like layers to things, like this tabernacle that I did. It's really great if you were to get those layers that are exactly on top of one another, because in PowerPoint, when I click through this, those layers just disappear and it feels perfectly natural. It almost feels like I'm watching a video presentation rather than a PowerPoint presentation. This can be a really powerful tool if you are doing a talk on something like this. Okay, but what if you're doing a talk not for adults, but for kids? You're doing a kids class and you're using a PowerPoint presentation. What I would just say is that kids like things a little bit more obvious. So your shapes should be a lot more shapely, less organic. You want to make sure that everything is very, very obvious to kids. Arrows, big text, that kind of thing. You want to make things much simpler for children than you would for adults, right? Whether it's black and white or whether it's color. Now, the danger with artwork is just that when you're building visual resources, artwork can be a little bit domineering. It can overwhelm the presentation. Must art look so good? How much art is too much? I would just argue that really it's just a question of where the focus is. If we've got the Sistine Chapel, nobody sees all the details, right? The focus is on the artist, not the art. If it's Jesus saves y'all, the focus is on the attitude. It's not on the message. Same thing with like verse images, which I famously have an issue with. But does your work clarify, or does it just add flavor? These are important things to understand. I'm not going to really run through infographics so much tonight. I'm kind of skip over this a little bit because not everybody makes infographics. They don't really happen so much. But I just want to encourage you that if you are doing an infographic, make sure that it's very clear. Make sure that you're using colors to help differentiate different things, shapes to differentiate different things, and iconography to differentiate different things. I do just want to take a moment to say that iconography is deceptively difficult to put together. But if you're having difficulty with iconography, I really want to encourage you to check out the Noun Project. This is a great place to go if you are looking for some sort of an icon and you want a series of icons that look really consistent. Noun Project is great. It's totally free. Um, High recommend. Okay, now we get to using AI, right? You can always create art yourself or have somebody create it for you. You can also have AI create art for you. AI is also known as large language models. These are LLMs, sometimes called. Um, and really, uh, without getting into the details of all of it, um, LLMs are really just a powerful search engine that predict desired user results. How does it get these results? It generates results based on the preferences that others have had in the past. It might generate based on your own personal preferences or the preferences of other users for that LLM. That would be like ChatGPT or Grok or Midjourney or something like that. Now, it's important to note that LLMs, AI, they are not good at everything, and they often get things wrong. And it's also important to note that AI, artificial intelligence, is not actual intelligence. Even if the results that you get are great, even if the results you get are great, are consistently very good, it's not real intelligence. You still need intelligence to use AI as a user, and you need it to guide the prompts and check AI answers at the very least. Because although this thing is guessing what you're looking for, and it's usually pretty good at it, you still need to do your own due diligence and make sure that the answers that it's giving you are good. The more specific you can be with AI, with your prompts or your questions, the better off you are, right? If you are asking a question, you should also add why you're asking the question. If you're asking a question, you should give the AI as much context as you possibly can, in order for it to give you the best answer to clarify for your needs. And with that said, AI can be a really powerful research assistant, and it can also be an artistic time saver for background tasks and basic visuals. Last year, I want to say last year, maybe the year before, I put together a presentation on conscientious objection. And I was looking for a series of images kind of like this. The way that I prompted them was something like this. Draw a picture for a slide presentation. That's the goal. The picture should have a square aspect. That's how it should look. And it should look somewhat realistic. We're looking at a man standing calmly, hands in his pockets. It's nighttime. He's in silhouette against the streetlights. In the distance, we see a mob riding. Streetlights cast long shadows. Streets are littered with injured people and garbage from the mob. The scene appears mature, serious, but conveys a sense of serenity for the main figure who stands near the middle of the frame. If your choice is between nothing and an image for people to glom onto so that they'll continue to read, maybe this is better than nothing. A lot of people look at images like this and they're like, it's just AI. Who cares? Some people do care. I would argue that, we should, for people that this doesn't really matter for, it's fine. But for people where people are, folks that are watching our presentations or reading our presentations and they're maybe getting a little bit bored, yeah, throw in an image. It's really not so hard to do, especially if you've got a good AI prompt to help you out. One other thing that's really been helpful to me with AI is, for example, this class that I did on sacrifices and burnt offerings. Basically, all of these images here for the different types of offerings, these are all icons, right? We've got a bull, we've got a ram, we've got a buck, a goat, a dove or a pigeon, unleavened bread and flour, and then we have our wine. Now, how do we make them all look similar, right? I create a bull on, a desert background. And then I say, replace it with a ram, replace it with a buck, replace it with a pigeon, replace it, replace it, replace it. And that gives a continuity to all of these different icons. And that's really nice. It looks professional, and it allows me to sort of reuse these images. I love to draw. I just don't love to draw things that I don't need to draw. This is a great way to do that. AI can serve you very, very well. I'm an artist. I am terrible at math. I am terrible, terrible, terrible at math. I'm embarrassingly bad. But there are some neat things that you can do with AI that we maybe couldn't even do a few years ago. So I was putting together, for example, very, very recently, the mobile bronze basins from Solomon's Temple. We have the diameter of these basins and we have the capacity, but we don't have the depth of the basins. How do we find that? Well, we go into AI and we say, here's the bowl. This is the diameter. This is the capacity. How deep would it need to be? And it'll calculate what the depth would be. Okay, now we know the diameter, we know the depth, we know the overall shape and volume. We know that it's made of bronze. What does this weigh? Maybe if it's an inch thick, what does it weigh? And AI will calculate that it weighs more than a car. Just the bowl weighs more than a car. And now you know a lot more about these basins. How much are they being moved around? Probably not a lot. Are you steering them around easily? Nope, probably not. So AI can help paint a better picture for you. That's AI in service of somebody that wants to know a little bit more. AI can also fail you, though. If I say, draw an angel from the Bible, I need an angel for my presentation, it's going to give you what everybody else wants, not what a Christadelphian wants. Does John 1 really support the Trinity? It's going to give you what everybody else wants. It's not going to give you necessarily what you want. AI can rob you as well. Don't allow AI to replace your own curiosity. This would be my general guideline for AI. If you were to say, have AI write a summary of the book of Isaiah and write a Christadelphian talk for you on that subject, AI can absolutely do that. However, that is different from you exploring Isaiah, you summarizing it, you writing a talk on your own conclusions. And what's the difference? Well, one outsources curiosity on spiritual matters to a machine. The other takes the responsibility of spiritual matters for self-betterment. That's what we're here to do. This is our race, brothers and sisters and friends, to run. You do the work. Don't let a machine rob your curiosity or inadvertently misguide your views based on the views of other users. That's the danger. Have your own curiosity about the Bible and pursue it, or why be religious at all? All right, let's conclude. Visuals can be powerful and even necessary. They support our presentations. They're not integral to it necessarily. They support it. They can clarify ideas and spur interest in new concepts. And how we visualize something matters because poor visual information, even information from our own imaginations, can lead us to accepting ideas that are incorrect. Visuals should look professional, right? We can't judge a book by its cover, but books have covers. And I'm sorry, but we do judge a book by its cover. That's the whole point of the cover, is for us to judge the book. We are representing ourselves. We're representing our community. We're representing our God. Let's put our best foot forward. Yes? Visuals take time to find and produce. Work on the substance of your topic first, and then be judicious about where your visuals are used. Make sure that there is time to find and create work that you need. And Lastly, visuals are tools for others. We're doing this for other people to help elucidate our ideas. Share them. Share the things that you make or that you find. Help others build a library that will help with their studies. Lift other people up with the work that you are doing. Don't outsource your curiosity. Keep looking for new tools. Keep looking for new workflows that are going to help you design efficiently or help augment your study. But reserve your focus on the core subjects for yourself. The Bible is for you. It is not for a machine. And remember 1 Peter 4:10. As every man hath received the gift, even so minister the same one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of God. Thank you for your attention and your time.